Destination Freedom. I'm glad you're here. Um, I'm Christopher Gronsky, and it's been a couple weeks since I've been here at the microphone and enjoying chatting with you and answering questions, things like that. We're away at the Pork Fest for a week, and coming back, we had to recover from that. I was traveling quite a bit, so I was. I really overdid it, and then I paid the price for that. So I pulled my back out. Been at the chiropractor, all those things the last couple of weeks, daily, and then even today I feel under the weather. I was so close to just putting this off for tomorrow or doing whatever. So um, forgive me if I sniffle or something like that. I've taken some antihistamines, and hopefully that'll help me out here. Maybe it's allergy. I mean, like pollen or whatever, but I don't know. It came in yesterday or last night, and so anyway, been a little under the weather. So hopefully today this will be okay, and I'll get into chit chatting and we'll talk about some of the current events, talk about some things going on. First of all, I want you to know that the Destination Freedom website is still under construction. The new site has launched. Our client database has not been migrated yet. We were just going back over the old site to clean up and grab these old files and data. So if you've been to the Destination Freedom website and you're a client or you had logged in before, do not create a new account. Hold on. We'll get that data so you can just log in properly. So we appreciate your patience for that. And then you'll be able to access classes that you've already paid for, things like that. We're going to make sure that it's all available to you and that works properly. And so that's what's going on. And we're rolling into the summer. And there's a lot going on for us. We're serving clients. We have a backload of work that we've been doing. I don't have an assistant right now that's here at the office. Our excellent assistant Amma had moved, and so she's no longer with us here. And hope she's happy and things are going well for her. We're struggling to, when I say we, I mean me. I'm struggling to answer all the communication, all the texting, calls that have to be followed up, and then client work is there's a backlog of that. Anytime I'm away from the office, then there ends up being a backlog. I mean, it's been years I've been backlogged, but we plug away and we try to get everything done. We have a number of things are more timely than other things, so sometimes they have a priority because of the time details on that. So thank you also for your patience. If you're enjoying this channel, and they say that most of the people that watch aren't subscribers to our channel, I would just ask that if you enjoy this content, please subscribe so you can get a notification. You can determine how often you see those notifications, but if you could like and subscribe, it definitely helps us. And then we can see, if people appreciate the work that we do and the sentiment that we have. And so that's really what today I'm going to deal with is the sentiment, the federal sentiment out there. And I was talking to a client this week, and we're like kindred spirits, so we were just enjoying chit-chatting and all that. And I remember him saying that he was with respect to the federal government, because I'm already crossed over the line, in which I'm of the opinion that our central government, the federal government, has stayed beyond its welcome. And I don't know exactly when it went awry, but whenever you set up a government, it's beautiful when you first set them up, I guess. And it just goes to shit after that, So it's just astonishing. There's not much the federal government does that is good. I can't think of a thing. Screwing things up, that does that well. Like my dad used to say, everything that touches turns to poop, But but it's amazing. And so I personally am no longer sending people to DC. I've said this before. I'm not sending even good people to DC because that's just going to ruin good people. I'm dealing with my own government in New Hampshire is enough for me, and so I'm content. I know, and so I participate and I vote, but I vote for people that I know and that I believe in that are going to secure liberty and freedom, and that's it. I'm not looking for anything from my government other than to secure my rights. The rights don't come from them. They're natural. They come from the Creator. And the only just purpose of government is to secure rights and nothing else at all, without exception. So if you want to screw something up, or here's another thing, I do have a standard by which um, you can have government be involved with some aspect of your life. And that's this. If it's important, the government shouldn't participate in anything that's important. So if it's not important and nobody gives a crap about something, that would be perfect for them to handle because that's about all they can handle. So it's just bad that way. So I'm for an advocate of make America states again. You see, that's what I say. So we're going to see if we have some questions out there. And so good. I'm glad that EQ. I'm glad that you're on today, and I'm glad to take a look at your question here. Let me see if I can read it here. It says, Chris, my husband and I purchased a state citizenship class and still need access to it. That's great. I appreciate that. We also want to move forward with the full passport alignment. Can we do it? Yes. What I would suggest to you to do so that I can follow up with you and of course give you access to those things if there's no problem with the website. If you just email me at statecitizen@destinationfreedom.org and then just include your contact phone number and I can give you a call, we can talk, and then we'll make sure that you get into that class. Speaking of that class, if you're anywhere near New Hampshire or would like to fly in on Saturday or fly in on Friday night for Saturday, we're doing a live state citizenship class here in New Hampshire, right here at the office. So if you want to come be part of that, we are providing lunch for that day. So that's one of those things. And you can be a part of that. Then if you want to do the full passport process, I'm willing to help and, to do those documents up this weekend, on the following day, Sunday. And then if you want to go to the post office on Monday, then you can do that and I'll go with you. And we have a post office that's near here that's done a lot of our clients and they know me, and it's been a great process. So if you'd like to be a part of that, you're certainly welcome. You can request a registration. Actually, you don't even have to request a registration. If you go to the main homepage of Destination Freedom and scroll down far enough, you'll see in big letters it says register for the live state citizenship class, and there's a PDF there. You can click on that and you can see that registration form. You can click, print it out, fill it out, and then email it to us at statecitizen@destinationfreedom.org, and that'll be cool. We'll be having another live state citizenship class. I'm sure we'll do a live one somewhere. If someone wants to put 10 students together in an area, then we'll be glad to set up a live class in your area. Otherwise, we typically do an annual class, in July after the Pork Fest, because we contact a number of people when we're there and we want to make a class available. And it's always nice to do a live class. That way people can ask questions and it's a lot of hands-on. So, but anyway, that's how it goes with respect to live classes. And also coming up in February of next year, we're looking to be at Acapulco, except for it's going to be in Puerto Vallarta. That's coming up. And then what else is coming up? That's, I think, good. We're going to figure out the holidays or something like that, but we'll see how that goes. We might travel. I'm doing some, I won't share that online here. We'll do that in a client call. We'll talk about some of the stuff that's going on in New Hampshire here. So that's a thing. So anyway, that's some of the stuff going on with Destination Freedom. And yes, I will get you access to those classes as soon as possible. The state citizenship class is online. I think the last video um, has to be uploaded so that the class is complete. I think it's only got 4 videos, and I think there's a total of 5 videos that are on that particular class. I think the workshops are there, but if they're not, and you let us know, we'll be glad to remedy that. The website's supposed to be completely migrated by the end of the week, by Friday. So hopefully that's going to be true, and we'll get to enjoy that. So I want to talk, and of course, if you have questions that you have, be sure to ask them in our comment section, on the on YouTube and Facebook, and hopefully we'll see that and try to get a response to you. But otherwise, just email us at statecitizen@destinationfreedom.org, and we'll be sure to connect with you. I want to talk about some of the things that are going on in the news these days. I was saying earlier about not sending good people to the District of Columbia. Now, don't you think the number one thing that someone running for office in the United States Congress would do that would change America from being practicing communism and would go back to being a constitutional republic? And really, when you look at, when we talk about I'm making up, or not, no, let me correct that. I'm not making up, because if you look at Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 of the Constitution, it allows the federal government to have exclusive legislative authority in all cases whatsoever in their jurisdiction. And of course, they have adopted all 10 planks of the Communist Manifesto in their jurisdiction. And so why isn't that when someone runs for office, they don't just say, hey, I'm going to change us, or I'm going to be an advocate to eliminate the 10 planks from the Communist Manifesto in America? So, if you think this is land of the free, home of the brave, you're kidding yourself. So if you've never read the Communist Manifesto, let me just say that there are 10 planks. And I'll read them to you just so that you can know that this is part of the Communist Manifesto. How about the number 1? Abolition of property in land and applications of all rents of lands to public purpose. Eliminating private property, abolishing property in land. The fact that people are paying property taxes and they don't know how they got into that situation. You just have to look at what the history of the concept of private property has been. People are classifying their property as residential. That's part of the problem. Nobody's classifying their property as private. And so they're setting up relationships in which the government is giving them privileges, and consequently they're taxed for those privileges. If you give up the privileges, you might not owe the tax. Then again, there's another plank of the Communist Manifesto that's collected in those property taxes. So that's one. The abolition of private property is the first plank of the Communist Manifesto. And listen, the environmentalists want the government to control the entire environment, and everybody's property is in the environment. So how crazy is that? So again, government is in control of all property. That's the first plank of the Communist Manifesto. The second plank is a heavy progressive or graduated income tax. Ding! Second plank of the Communist Manifesto, a graduated income tax. So when our Congress created the tax code and people started being taxed on their income, that was the Communist Manifesto coming to America. How about this one? Abolition of all rights of inheritance. No, you can't pass things on to your children, and if you do, you're taxed. There's capital gains tax or inheritance taxes. Both state and federal do that kind of stuff. Confiscation of all of the property of all immigrants and rebels. So they're gonna take away property from immigrants and rebels. Of course, if you're just it's the same thing when you're dealing with what do you call that what do they call it? Where you're pulled over and they find drugs in your car and then they take your car. Um, where they call that? What, Michael? What do they call that? Where they you take your properties, take law enforcement takes your property without any due process, civil asset forfeiture. How do you like that crap? And again, that is only for federal citizens. But regardless, that fact that the government can take your property without due process, if you will, is part of the Communist Manifesto. How about here's one? Here's one. This never happened in America. Centralization of credit in the hands of the state by means of a national bank with state capital and an exclusive monopoly. Ding! Federal Reserve Act creates a central bank. There you go. Fifth plank of the Communist Manifesto. How's that working for us? Centralization of the means of communication and transport in the hands of the state. The FCC, the Federal Communication Commission. And then how about transport? The Department of Transportation. Airplanes, trucks, all in the hands of the state. Hello. Sixth plank of the Communist Manifesto. How about the extension of factories and instruments of production owned by the state, the bringing into cultivation of wastelands, and the improvement of soil generally in accordance with a common plan? That's the EPA. And of course, anytime you have corporations, they serve the government, and so they're taxed and regulated. So, and remember, it was Mussolini that said, fascism is corporatism. A lot of people think it's capitalism. They're just ignorant. Okay. Capitalism means that the individual owns and controls the property or the capital. They make money with their capital, their property. But corporations are controlled by governments. That is the seventh plank of the Communist Manifesto. Then, of course, also dealing, well, here's the number 8, equal liability of all to labor, establishment of industrial armies, especially for agriculture. And again, when you have these unions, and then you have the Department of Labor, that's actually a department in the federal government. This is communism being practiced in America. Number 9, the combination of agriculture with manufacturing industries, gradual abolition of distinction between the town and country by more equitable distribution of the population over the country. And again, every time you centralize government, every time that you have even governments that incorporate, or for example, the state, any of our states, when they have employees, they also come into the federal zone by having a tax ID number and all those things. So these states become part of the federal government. It's definitely a centraling of government and government power. And of course, the 10th plank of the Communist Manifesto is free education for all children in public schools. This is a plank of the Communist Manifesto. Private school is the way that you secure liberty and freedom and give the best education for children. Then it says abolition of children's factory labor in its present form. And of course, they came up with child labor laws. Now, children, even young children, are able to work and should work. But typically that was right, that those children would be working under their parents' guidance and working for their families and their parents in that capacity. The reason that you end up having child labor laws was because these children were working for corporations. They were working for companies. And they were abusing. And if parents were so poor, if the central banks were crushing these families, then they would want their children to work, of course. And children can work and should work. But we're not talking about like in lithium mines where their safety is harmed. There's proper work for proper children, like on a farm. A little child collecting eggs under the chickens is good work. Pilling up weeds and things like that, pulling plants, fruit and such as that. That's all great work for children. Okay. And again, knowing your child and knowing their limitations, that's proper, but not in the hands of the government. Not good at all. So there's 10 planks. Everything has been adopted by our governments here in America. So don't give me like America's land of the free, home of the brave. America is practicing communism while having a package on the outside like land of the free, home of the brave. It's home of the crock of crap is really what that's all about. Um, let's see. Yeah. So yeah, the it's just astonishing that people don't realize that they're practicing that. So coming up, so anyway, so if someone's not going to go to Washington to shut the communism down, then they're really not um, going to go and be a part of the solution. They're just going to be part of the problem. So here's the other thing was in the top news stories. I was going to look up some of that stuff just to see. Now this is NPR. Now this is going to be a liberal, and I'm not going to look at all these. Um, Here's one that says Supreme Court blocks part of Florida's immigration law. Now, let me tell you something. Immigration is not a power that we have delegated to the United States or the federal government by the Constitution. They're immigrating into the District of Columbia. If they had that power, then the word immigration would show up in the Constitution in Article 1, Section 8, but it doesn't. So it's immigrating into the District of Columbia. And so, listen, just because men are in black dresses or there's a Supreme Court doesn't mean crap that they understand the Constitution. Or, Chris, are you suggesting the Supreme Court doesn't understand the Constitution? Yes, I'm saying that. Because when you have a constitutional matter come up before the Supreme Court and they rule on it 5-4, somebody doesn't understand the Constitution or doesn't uphold it. Half of them, just because the majority say it is constitutional or that it's not, depending on whatever the issue is, if half of them are saying it's not or that it is, then there's some breakdown in understanding. Somebody isn't upholding the Constitution. So what if they're a Supreme Court judge? You don't think there's communists as Supreme Court justices? That's just ignorance, of course. It's just stupid. We hold truth to be self-evident. You don't need somebody in a black dress to tell you what's truthful, okay? And if you can't understand the Constitution, then why would you expect your representative to uphold and understand the Constitution that you don't understand? There's work to be done. We have to understand the limitations of government. And the purpose of understanding the Constitution, the federal Constitution, is so you can know the limitations of the federal government. And it's not a large document. You can know these things. And the same thing goes for your state. You have a state constitution. If you haven't read it, it's a good idea to do so. If you expect America to be a constitutional republic, then you might want to hold a higher standard for yourself. But hey, I don't want to be too hard on you. You know, you probably were public schooled, and you probably don't know these things. No one's ever told you these things about, truth, justice, and the American way. It's like Superman. So let's look at a couple of these headlines. We'll see. Oh yeah, one of them. I remember a couple of them talking to my son. Let's see what is it? One of the things that was coming out was Epstein, and so Trump was saying that you guys still talking about Epstein, and what did the FBI come out and say? They'd said that. Let me see if I can have the wording of what they say about Epstein. Let me just catch it here. That's a funny one. I'll get back to that one in a second. So, of course, the bad thing is that the flooding happening in Texas. And then you can look up and see whether our government is doing these energy weapons things. We're seeing a lot of drastic weather events these days. And if you want to find out if that's not a conspiracy, okay, look up in Title 15, which is Title 15 deals with commerce, okay? And you can look up Chapter 9, which is weather modification. That's how you know there's statutes that govern that. Here's what it says. It says, Department of Justice says no evidence Jeffrey Epstein had a client list or blackmailed associates. Yeah, FBI, they told us there's no evidence of a client list. Is that right? Listen, it's just pure crock of crap. The FBI, let's see, the federal government. Yeah, we investigated ourselves for wrongdoing and found nothing but right doing going on. We're not guilty of anything. Everything's copacetic. Move along. Nothing to see here. Crock of crap. Listen, I recommend seeing this film on Netflix, or I think it's on Netflix, but I think we saw it on Netflix, but it could be anywhere. But it was called Filthy Rich. It was the Epstein story. And you'll see that Florida had like 40 witnesses against Epstein for human trafficking, prostitution, among other things, you know. And so they were prosecuting him and they were going to throw the book at him. All right. And then the FBI, who, you know, is full of justice, you know, that comes along and they take over the case. And of course, they come up with a plea bargain. Okay. And they give him a pass so that he can go home at night and things like that. It was a cakewalk. They rescued Epstein. Okay. But let me tell you, another thing that was part of the plea bargain that they did was that and you can look this up, that they're the known conspirators. The known conspirators had immunity. Let me see if I can see how they said that about immunity. Let's see if I can find it here, the wording. So, but what was amazing was that let's see. No, let's got to go back up here. Yeah, I want to see. So if they say there's no client list, well, whether there was or not, it says here. I just want to see if I can catch it. I have to go. I don't think I have to go back further. Yeah, that they said they were going to give immunity. Let's see if I can. No, I think it was down pretty far. I just want to see if I can catch this. Hold on, 1 minute. Conspirators. Mm-hmm. It's all part of the plea deal. All right, let's see. Well, I guess I'm missing it in this article I was looking at. But anyway, they were giving immunity to the known conspirators. Well, how about those were the people that are on his client list, or say, screw the client list? How about the known conspirators, those who were involved with Epstein? That'll be something. Throw those under the bus. But the reality is that they're covering up for government officials. And let me tell you, Epstein was working for Mossad. That's Israel, okay? The Israeli government had set out to control our government by entrapping, not like that was a difficult thing to do, but entrapping our scum crud in DC with all kinds of things that they can threaten them with in order to control them. That's a reality. That's the way it works. So it's just dreadful. So the FBI is not a righteous organization. And Trump promised in his first office that he would prosecute the Clintons, never did. You know, when he looked into it, he didn't see that there was too many crimes. Listen, people died under decisions made by Hillary Clinton at the and I'm spacing on the the consulate that was invaded. There's a film on that. But anyway, and she had email servers that were not that had classified information on, and she was using them on private servers. All that crap people would go to jail for, but the special people don't. So it's just bad. And Trump was going to be the champion for that. If his first time in office, he'd accomplished just that alone, that would have brought justice. But no, not enough evidence. Sorry. Those are some great people, I'm sure. It's like, holy crap. And now he's going to cover up for Epstein and those guys because nothing to see here. I've looked over it. Not too important. Not too many people you'd know. Bull crap. So I don't buy it. It's a crock of crap. All it did was told us that the FBI is on the take. And they're part of the co-conspirators, okay? That's what the FBI's done. And when I think about conspiracy and all that, you can throw the CIA under the bus too, because what the hell they do for anybody or anything other than winning elections, setting up foreign governments that are going to serve the corporate structure in America or central banks. It's just another crime outfit. That's what's going on. So listen, there's nothing in the District of Columbia that's worth saving. That's my sentiment. So it's unfortunate, but It's just dreadful that people think that it's okay. Oh yeah, here it is. I found the thing. It says the fact that Acosta, I guess that's who was dealing with the Epsteins, signed a deal that immunized the co-conspirators, the people around Epstein, is very strange. Why would we want to do that unless he was protecting powerful people? Who was he afraid of? See, that's known. It's known there are conspirators. And are they sharing that? Nope, not going to. They're going to make it classified. It's in our best interest. Listen, that outfit in the District of Columbia is done, folks. There's nothing good that's going to come out of it. Those days are long over, So that's where I'm at. So it's unfortunate. But let's take a look at some other headlines, if you will. So yeah, and again, the thing about the flooding, which is an atrocity. They knew things were going to happen ahead of time. You can look at the stories that there were certain events that they were doing, even weather modification, seeding clouds right before these flooding. You can check it out. If you look, the data is there, and then there's lost life. Will anybody go to jail? Will anybody be prosecuted? No, not at all. So it's sad that there has to be loss of life. Here's some good news coming up. Good news. Here's the best news coming out. It says shoes are off at the airport. Shoes off. TSA gives up the pesky rule. Gives the pesky rule the boot. Yep. So you don't have to take off your shoes anymore. How nice is that? Can keep your shoes on. Yeah. When I do TSA, I always give myself extra time there. The TSA, I'm. Yeah, Michael, did we ever have that video? That TSA, have we uploaded that to YouTube? Hey, how many of you would like to see me going through TSA, getting the old pat down? Wouldn't that be fun? Where you have to have your hands out. Anyway, I wear this special shirt when I do the TSA pat down. Well, usually when I'm going to Mexico and all, I usually wear that because we get to hang out with those freedom people. But I wear a shirt that says, I don't get much affection at home. That's why I'm here. And so they're patting me down. I always consider it part of my TSA spa treatment. So I pay for my first class ticket and then I get the TSA massage. It's really good. So, but anyway, it makes it a pleasant experience. I just love it. I just love to just go that way. I don't help them. I just, it's just bad. But anyway, it's one of those strange things that you can turn into a good thing. But anyway, they pat you down. Yeah, you just don't want to get some. I tell them, I say, well, listen, would it matter if I identified as a woman? Could I get myself a woman to pat me down? Now they never say yes, so I can get a proper massage. But I imagine if they did, they could probably find some pipe fitter who would be more masculine than me that would end up patting me down. That's bad. But anyway, that hasn't happened. But it's one of those things. So anyway, yeah, they're going to give up those taking off your shoes. Won't that be sweet? The rest of the world doesn't have you take your shoes off. Of course, let me just say also, when you're dealing with treaties in other countries, the federal government requires other countries to have a certain level of TSA in order to get money from the federal government. So these cash-starved countries around the world that want something from the federal teat are glad to abide by federal guidelines with respect to traveling. Let's see what others. Yeah, here's a one that I think is interesting. It says the U.S. birth rate is falling fast. No kidding. I wonder, Michael, I wonder what one of the side effects of the vaccine is. You think that they'll mention the vaccine? The total fertility rate is smaller with big consequences. No kidding. Is there anybody in those control that wants to hit the world population? Anybody have that in maybe the World Health Organization's part of their mission and plan is to decrease population? You think it's an accident that the fertility rate in America is dropping? No kidding. If people are taking vaccines, the fertility rate will be dropping, folks. They got people believing. People want that. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, that's occurring. No kidding. But you're not going to see the government or the World Health Organization uh, take a look at the correlation between the vaccine and the infertility. Who I did? Oh yeah, no doubt. Oh, that's just disgusting. But yeah, that's all part of the World Health Organization self castration. Yeah, that's no kidding. So that's amazing. So here's another fun thing in the news, because I'm not a big fan of AI. I'm a fan of and here get this line: creative intelligence, not artificial. We don't want anything. We don't want artificial flavors, artificial sweeteners. We don't want an artificial intelligence because artificial intelligence is not intelligence. Okay, I'll stand by creative human intelligence all day long. Okay, but here it is. And listen, slow is not bad, folks. When you're making love, slow's okay, So it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. John Allen says, yes, yep, that's correctly. And then John says he's not moving and traveling. that's that's not good. Sister lost her kid when pregnant, and she had all the vaccine. That's just sad. That breaks my heart. But here's one of the things about AI. Imposter uses AI to impersonate Rubio and contact foreign and U.S. officials. So some hacker or something says the State Department is warning U.S. diplomats of attempts to impersonate Secretary of State Mark Rubio and possibly other officials using technology driven by artificial intelligence. Awesome. You never know who you're going to be talking to if there's artificial intelligence. Holy moly macaroni. But that's great, though. I wonder if they can get what I like to see is if the artificial intelligence can impersonate the Secretary of State Mark Rubio and have him doing some bad karaoke. Now that would be probably worth watching. That'd be great. And they can have all kinds of different people impersonating government officials and doing some bizarro stuff. But that part of that is how they're going to entrap good people if they don't do bad things, is that they'll just make up like they are doing bad things, and you wouldn't know the difference because they're going to create that with artificial intelligence. So yeah, the flooding is big in the news. So what else is going on that the Trumpsters doing and working on? Yeah, so we'll see if the feds will help out. Those Texas families that were lost in this flood, rather than Trump sending over. Oh yeah, who was it that Netanyahu was saying Trump should get the Nobel Peace Prize? Really? He wants to send more guns to Ukraine. Yeah, why doesn't he, since he's into states' rights and empowering Americans, why don't he just create the commissions, the committees of safety or the militias in the state? It says, for what's the Second Amendment say again? It says about that in order to have a free state, um, a well-armed militia is required, like that. And listen, if the Americans are doing it for themselves, it's going to be much better than a central government doing it. So that's just a thing. But yeah, some of that is some of the headlines out there, and in my dealing with AI and how fast computers are moving and all. What did we get? A hard drive the other day? It was like 6 terabytes, and you get it, and it's in this little device or this box, and it's lighter than a feather, and you don't have that perceived weight for quality or something. They should just put some lead weights in there just so it feels heavy. Like, wow, that's beefy. That'd be a good idea. They'd have to buy the lead though. But anyway, the data is getting smaller and smaller, compacting, and yeah, that's your tip out there is invest in microprocessors. So, but anyway, this AI is out there. But the thing is that if Trump does just this last office, who will run after him? Well, if Vance is going to be the next candidate, listen, he's a big surveillance guy. And so Trump is going to be the father of American surveillance. And listen, this is an old communist ploy. When the government comes up with the enemy or the bad guy, then they create these systems, and although they say that it's for the bad guy, the systems are really for you. That's a known thing. Problem, solution, whatever is problem, how they define that again. Problem, solution. They're creating the problem, and I was hearing George Jr. Bush in my head. You fool me once. Uh, you, what's he say? You fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice. Well, you just can't fool me twice. That guy was a nutcase. The best thing I liked about George Bush Jr. was he helped me stop voting for Republicans. That was a great thing. I gave up on both parties at that time because that guy facilitated the USA Patriot Act. What a crock of crap. That's bad. But anyway, yeah. So if Trump is going to be setting up the surveillance state and then add AI to that, it's not going to be good, folks. And that was its original intent, was to entrap you. If you haven't seen V for Vendetta, take a look at it. They set this whole thing up. It's the same problem that they have in the film that we're going to see in America. They're not coming after the bad guys. They're coming after you. That's just the way it is. And it's really sad. But hey, that's why I have no more interest in the central government. I'm only for its demise. And what I mean by that is we want it to fall apart. We want people not to use it. I want the states to ratchet in their stupid monster. Okay. And again, what I believe about it is I do not believe that the federal government is violating the Constitution. I believe the Constitution has empowered them to do exactly what they're doing in their jurisdiction. I believe the states are derelict in their duty to safeguard us and to protect us from this stupid monster they created. So that's why I would say I would repeal the federal Constitution, send the bastards home. Now, when I say repeal the Constitution, I'm not suggesting they're going to stick around. That's moronic, okay? When I say that, I'm saying that's the source of their power. Take it away from them. That power has been delegated to them. Take it back. Get serious about it. You'll see that we don't even have to do much. And listen, if you want to bring something back for the central government to handle, then just do the Articles of Confederation. Let them just talk amongst themselves. Talk amongst yourselves. That's all. I wouldn't abolish the UN. Just let them talk. Give them zero power. Don't delegate anything to appointed people. That's just ridiculous. So, yeah, that's the way I feel about it. So yeah, that's some of the things coming up in the news. One of the things that we're interested in is helping our clients navigate and stay out of the federal zone, and that's in the area of firearms and such as that. If you look up Title 27, or what used to be alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, it's called something different now, but it's still Title 27. It deals with firearms. You'll see that it regulates federal citizens that are subject to the jurisdiction thereof. That's why federal gun laws are constitutional, because the Constitution gave the federal government exclusive legislative authority in all cases whatsoever in their jurisdiction. That's in D.C., Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, Guam, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, America, Samoa, all those federal territories and their citizens. That 14th Amendment U.S. federal citizen that's also taxed and regulated, okay? That's what those gun laws regulate and control. Those that are state citizens in the states are not subject to federal gun laws. And that's what makes them constitutional. Understand that. If you don't understand it, you're just, listen, if it would be true that the federal government's violating the Constitution, then we're at war, folks. And then they're clearly an enemy of our liberty and freedom. But I don't believe that. I believe they are doing exactly what the Constitution has empowered them to do. unfortunately. And then most of the time, the federal government is in these states because they hand out cash, and that's how it works. So anyway, I think we're going to wrap it up. We're going to have an early night here. I'm a little under the weather. I can feel that, so I'm going to try to recover before next time. But I did want to talk a little bit about the things in the news and what's going on, and I appreciate you a lot. And and it's my prayer, and I'm taking action to make sure that the website is been fully migrated by the end of the week, and that all of our things work and everything works well. Okay, so all right. And if there's anything you need we can do for you, be sure to email us at statecitizen@destinationfreedom.org. I'm Christopher Gronsky, and I love talking about liberty and freedom, and I like helping people pull out of the federal zone. It's a joy, and we'd be glad to help you. So if you're looking to eliminate that federal income tax liability, which would include state income taxes, and you want to keep 100% of the fruit of your labor, well, then reach out to us. We'd be glad to help you. Okay. All right. Take care. We'll see you next time on Destination Freedom.